Dragon Ball is all about power ranking, so the aptly named Tournament of Power was a great way to showcase just how strong each character, and by extension their universe, is. Universe 7 may have won, but did they have the strongest fighter? The Tournament of Power was held with 10 fighters, each from the 8 different universes in the broader Dragon Ball universe, which means 80 total fighters. While this may sound like a lot, many of the fighters were nothing more but cannon fodder for the big hitters from a select few universes. So the tournament was as simple as a test of raw power. No tricks, no gimmicks, just which universe has the better fighters. Let's take a look and see how some of the best fighters in the tournament stack up. Saiyan is a dark-skinned Namekian who looks quite similar to his Universe 7 counterpart Piccolo. Saiyan was very often seen alongside his fellow Universe 6 Namekian, Palina, and they represent the strongest Namekians of said universe. Saiyan just barely scratches the top fighters in this list due to him putting Gohan and Piccolo on their back feet for a time. Saiyan and Palina were ultimately bested by the Universe 7 Namekian, but Piccolo was a very impressive fighter in his own right. Being strong enough to make him sweat a bit during their fight ensures Saiyan deserves his spot on the list. Cassirel is a victim of yet another of Akira Toriyama's hilarious naming conventions. This fighter, named after a deep dish cuisine, is the general of the Pride Troopers. He is the only member of Universe 11 that could be vaguely described as a human, but he's got some cybernetic attachments to differentiate himself from a typical Earthling. Much like the rest of the Pride Troopers, he's generally good-natured, but with some impressive combat ability to boot. He fights primarily with energy blades he forms with ki from his hands, which he slashes at the opponent viciously. However, it's noted that much of Cassirel's combat ability comes from his teamwork, not his individual power. Tien is undoubtedly one of the strongest Earthlings in Universe 7. And when you consider the quality of fighters that have come from Earth, that is no small feat. Being a more traditional martial artist and held back by his relative weakness against the other Z fighters, Tien has adapted some really impressive techniques and powers for use against stronger foes. While he does have an impressive bag of tricks he can pull from, his most devastating signature attack is without a doubt his Neo Tri-Beam. This ability has significant concussive force, and was even able to subdue Semi-Perfect Cell for some time. However, the ability does take a toll on Tien, so it's used sparingly. Jimizu is a bit of an odd one as far as this list goes, as he's rather an unassuming little alien man with some impressive mastery over instant transmission. Jimizu is a yard rat of Universe 2, a race that has significant precise control over ki, and taught Goku the instant transmission technique. Jimizu's impressive combat ability comes from instant transmission in fact. Jimizu's abuse of instant transmission allowed him to even put Gohan on the ropes. This continued until Frieza stepped in and realized Jimizu's predictable use of the technique. So he's not the strongest pound for pound fighter, but he was clever enough to take his mastery of instant transmission pretty far. Let's go ahead and get this joke out of the way. Botamo is what Winnie the Pooh would look like if he learned how to use ki. Alright, now that the obvious reference is out of the way, Botamo is definitely a force to be reckoned with. This big honey bear gave a lot of trouble to the Z fighters during his time in the tournament, largely due to the shock nullification powers of his bouncy body. Unfortunately for him, even though he was almost impossible to damage, the rules of the tournament involved knocking the opponent out of the arena, which Gohan was able to use to his advantage against the big lug. From a visual standpoint, Mona is pretty much a joke of a character, basically being a spear with arms, legs, and a head. However, she was without a doubt one of the strongest fighters in the tournament. This big roly-poly girl seems like she'd be pretty easygoing, when in fact, she ended up being one of the most cruel and ruthless fighters in the tournament. In fact, it was on account of her taunting that Cabba unlocked his Super Saiyan 2 form, and knocked her out of the tournament for good. Mona's quite unconventional power-up gives her an even more pronounced spherical shape, and increases all her strengths significantly. Not the most popular fighter to be sure, but she's more than earned a spot on this list. Arguably the weakest of the Universe 6 Saiyans, Cabba is very much a brains over brawn kind of person. He doesn't possess the raw destructive power that Kale or even Caulifla does by the time of the tournament. But being a Saiyan means even at his base level, he is no slouch when it comes to combat. While he was far from an even match for the Saiyan Prince Vegeta, he was able to spar with him fairly comfortably for some time. Vegeta actually helped him get stronger, helping the young Saiyan unlock his Super Saiyan 1 form in the process. it'll be interesting to see how Cabba and the rest of the Saiyans of Universe 6 progress going forward. Master Roshi is Goku's and Krillin's former martial arts teacher, and to this day proves that he is truly the master. This perverted old coot is still easily one of the strongest humans ever, even in his advanced age. Even though in terms of pure power alone he is lacking compared to many of the fighters in the tournament, Master Roshi has quite possibly the deepest bag of tricks in Dragon Ball. And these techniques and utter mastery of the martial arts keep him one of the strongest fighters of Universe 7. The Turtle School of Martial Arts is not to be taken lightly. There is little doubt that as of right now, Krillin is the strongest human being in all of Universe 7. Unfortunately for him, that means he is outclassed from what seems to be everything that isn't from Earth, like Saiyans and the Frieza race. However, even with the human limitations, the little guy has shown that hard work and perseverance can get you pretty far, even in a world of superhumans and godlike beings. Just ask Batman. Krillin is a complete master of martial arts. Training alongside Goku, he has kept up with him in many respects. He isn't the strongest of the Z fighters, but he's always reliable and often full of surprises, especially when the opponent underestimates him. Being the strongest Namekian in the Dragon Ball universe, as of late, Piccolo has gotten the short end of the stick. He's still able to keep up with the rest of the Z fighters, and is undeniably one of the strongest behind the Saiyans. However, with the continuing power escalation and the crazy new forms Vegeta and Goku have gotten, he looks pretty weak in comparison. That being said, Piccolo is a true master of the martial arts, and continues to do great work as a teacher to the other Z fighters and Gohan in particular. Without a crazy new power-up, Piccolo isn't likely to reach the level of the Saiyans anymore, but his incredible range of experience and tactical cunning still keep him a very strong warrior. A member of the Frieza race from Universe 6 and a galactic conqueror, Frost is pretty much that universe's version of Frieza. However, the one big thing holding him back from being as powerful as his Universe 7 counterpart is his inability to access his golden form. Though, unlike Frieza, Frost has actually pretended to be a good guy, and was someone Cabba looked up to. Ultimately, he ended up being the same kind of villain as Frieza. Must just run in their blood. Though he pales in comparison to Frieza's golden form, Frost is still an extremely powerful combatant, owing at least in part to his dirty style of fighting. Frost has nothing against cheating to get an advantage. Even though she was quite possibly the most hated character in the Tournament of Power, there's no doubt how strong the power of love is in Brienne. Fun fact about Brienne, her base human form, Brienne, is actually exclusive to the anime. In the manga, she's always the rotund Brienne. In her Brienne form, she's able to fight on par with Super Saiyan Vegeta, a claim not many other warriors can make. It took Android 18 to use all of her power to take Brienne down, with a little help from her brother 17. As silly as she was a serious threat for much of Universe 7. I'm just upset she wasn't able to use her Miracle Cuticle Particle Recycle attack in the manga. She didn't even finish the attack name! Bergamo comes from the especially furry universe of Universe 9. He and his compatriots weren't the strongest fighters in the tournament, but Bergamo does earn his position in this list because of his ability to absorb damage and reversal powers. He was so strong, he forced Goku into his Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken form, which he was ultimately defeated by. Even at base, he was able to get an edge over Goku. However, his power does come at a hindrance, as he gets so big that he's too slow to hit his target by the end, giving Goku an opening. Everyone's favorite android, at least until the Tournament of Power, Android 18 didn't quite live up to her brother's impressive showing during the tournament, but she had some great moments nonetheless. Being an android gives 18 a significant advantage over her opponents, especially because of her infinite stamina. With this, she's able to keep fighting at 100% without anything holding her back. Android 18's big moment in the tournament was when she went up against a maximum powered up Brienne and her lovely love Brienne form. Also, her sacrifice that allowed 17 to continue on in the tournament showed how much of a brother-sister bond the two share. The brash, rough, and tumble Saiyan from Universe 6 was much more representative of Universe 7's Saiyan race than our two compatriots. Caulifla's blood runs just as hot as Goku and Vegeta's, and she does a lot of the heavy lifting for Universe 6's Saiyans before a certain someone on their team unlocks their Legendary Super Saiyan form. Unlike her ally Cabba, Caulifla isn't known for using her head in battle, unless it's to headbutt someone evidently. However, she doesn't need to, because her natural talent takes her a long way in the tournament. She did get significantly stronger during the course of her fights, which does indicate a predisposition for learning, but to say she's a tactical fighter would be a bit of a stretch. You really can't go wrong with Gohan. Sure, he isn't the strongest Saiyan anymore when you take a look at all the fancy new colors that Goku and Vegeta have unlocked, but he's easily still one of the strongest fighters in all of Universe 7. It's unwise to even count out a Saiyan after all, even a halfie like Gohan. While back in his teenage years he relied on being an absolute powerhouse compared to the other Saiyans, these days he falls back more on strategy and using the best tool for the job. Gohan trains primarily under Piccolo, so he's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve. Hopefully, one day we get to see him get a new form. Potential Unleash seems a bit old at this point. In a twist of irony, the originally meek and timid Kale ended up being the Legendary Super Saiyan of Universe 6, a power that is only seen once every 1,000 years. Originally in her base form, Kale is nothing special, a pretty weak Saiyan all things considered, but when she enters her Berserk state, resembling Universe 7's Legendary Super Saiyan Broly, that's when she becomes pretty busted. In this form, she can take on both Caulifla and Cabba at the same time with ease, and even tank a Kamehameha by Super Saiyan Blue Goku, though he wasn't giving it his all. Eventually, her and Caulifla were able to push Goku a fair bit, but his technique and raw power were too much for the budding Super Saiyans. Here we come to the true hero of the Tournament of Power arc. It was his final, selfless wish that saved all the universes. Android 17 had to have been the most slippery and tricky fighter in the whole Tournament of Power. You can never count him out, no matter what position he was in. While he could often hold his own against the other combatants, his assistance was very helpful, and he saved a ton of the other fighters on numerous occasions. It was nice to see the friendly neighborhood park ranger get his time to shine. The glorious return of Lord Frieza was something Dragon Ball fans have wanted for a long time. But when he joined the Tournament of Power, it was as a good guy? That was just too much. Frieza got his resurrection in Dragon Ball Super, and he brought a fresh coat of paint with him. Golden Frieza is the current ultimate form of the little alien man, and it is quite fitting for the leader of the Frieza Force. The only fighters that were able to give Frieza serious trouble were those in the tippy top of the tournament's power. Hit is the legendary assassin of Universe 6, and owing everything to his reputation, he handles everything with pinpoint precision, both in his demeanor and style of fighting. One of the biggest drawbacks for him in the Tournament of Power is that he isn't able to end the life of any other fighter, so he has to hold himself and his assassin techniques back a bit to even participate. Hit fights primarily by targeting the weak spots of his opponent, hitting them with precise strikes instead of raw, brute force. His most broken ability is of course his time skip ability, where he essentially gets a short period of time to act independent of everything else, making his precise strikes even more deadly. At least at the time of the Tournament of Power, Dyspo was able to boast a seriously impressive feat, being the fastest mortal in the entire Dragon Ball universe. He was so fast and unable to be hit that it took a very clever sacrifice by Gohan with the help of Frieza to take the speed demon out of the tournament for good. According to Goku, Dyspo's lack of strategy and over-reliance on his speed was his downfall. Just because you can move faster than light doesn't mean you're that good at punching people. This massive mustachioed master of martial arts is the leader of the Pride Troopers and all of Universe 11's team during the Tournament of Power. Like the rest of the Pride Troopers, Top isn't a villain so much, and he's just a character with opposing ideals. Every team's universe had their survival on the line after all. Top, however, abandoned his ideals and became a god of destruction in the middle of his final fight, easily overpowering Frieza and Android 18. However, Vegeta was just barely able to beat him by using every ounce of his power. Vegeta, the prince of all Saiyans, was a monster during the Tournament of Power, and while he decided that Ultra Instinct wasn't his pathway forward like Goku, he's still impressed nonetheless. In the tournament, the highest form achieved by Vegeta was Super Saiyan God SS Evolved, which was an even further perfected form of Super Saiyan Blue. and put him on par with Goku while using Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken in terms of power. However, Jiren believed the form to be about on par with Ultra Instinct Saiyan, as it was the only other thing to truly push him during the tournament. Goku is just Goku. Like, of course he'll be one of the strongest. He is the main character after all. However, it's kinda surprising to see him in second, but there's good reason for that. If Goku was able to maintain Ultra Instinct as well as he is currently, there's a very good chance that he would beat the number 1 on this list. But at the time of the tournament, Kakarot was no match for the strongest fighter in the Tournament of Power. Jiren is downright broken. His insane strength and destructive capabilities shown throughout the Tournament of Power is completely unrivaled by anyone else. Even when pushed to his absolute limit, the combined might of Frieza, Goku, and Android 17 was just barely enough to take this hulking alien out of the fight, and he still had energy to spare. If it weren't for the rules of the tournament, he surely would have trounced the other 3 all at once. Goku and Frieza had to sacrifice themselves just to take him out, leaving Android 17 the victor of the tournament. Another Dragon Ball power ranking in the books. It seems fitting that a series that made the idea of power rankings popular would have so many online debates about the subject. Tournament arcs are great for this reason. It gives an idea of how each fighter stacks up.